Thank you for joining me as we discuss how to rapidly transition from a security operations center into an all threats fusion center. The objective of this presentation is to cast a vision for how your security operations center could expand to provide greater value to your security operations and, more importantly, to the rest of your organization. Before we get started, I want to let you know that everyone has been muted, so if you have a question, please submit it in the Q&A tab on the right. I also included my contact info in the chat if you'd like to reach me directly after the presentation. So in order to cast a vision for where the security operations center could be, I first want to establish a baseline for what a typical security operations center is now. I'm going to generalize. You may be further along in your capabilities, but these qualities sum up most security operations centers, since most of them were built to address physical security threats that existed at a specific time. When you look at the security operations center, whether they're called command centers or GSOCs or real-time crime centers, they do some things really well. They centralize management of alarms. They provide real-time visibility with live video. They centralize communications, and they have forced security departments to codify SOPs, even if they are just written in a binder. But security operations centers also have some significant deficiencies. First, they are reactive in that they wait for an alarm or an event to happen before they begin a response. Second, almost none of the systems or data sources are integrated with each other, which creates data silos. Third, they're entirely dependent on humans to identify the unwanted behavior or conditions and take the right actions in the right order, which means that those processes for gathering context, distilling it into actionable intelligence, and identifying trends are all manual and, again, dependent on the operator's skills and ambitions. By their very nature, the SOC is security-centric, with its primary focus being the security of the organization. And the people, processes, and technologies employed in the SOC are rigid and inflexible and unable to adapt to new security scenarios. The result is that most security operations centers are not equipped to scale to the current level of threats, adapt to emerging threats, or worst of all, they're not capable of contributing to the organization's overall strategy. We think the next evolution in security operations is the fusion center. And I define a fusion center as a security operations center that is fully integrated, fully aware, and fully collaborative. Now, the components of a fusion center do not require a forklift overhaul, and all of the components and the capabilities that I'm going to discuss can be phased in whatever order and at whatever time is most appropriate for your organization. Now, if we look at a timeline of a security event, with the red line being time, past, and future, and the red pin being a security event, whether that's a door forced open alarm, an active shooter, a weather event, or whatever, the SOC doesn't take action until the event happens. It's reactionary and to the right of boom. And if you'll notice, there's a lot of room to the left, and that's where the fusion center really shines. This is where the fusion center seeks to become proactive, predictive, and preventative. So how do we get there? I'll raise the timeline up to the top of the page, and the first characteristic of a fusion center is that it is integrated. And the results of a fully integrated solution or fusion center are greater situational awareness surrounding an event and less time required to handle alarms and respond to incidents. Rather than the SOC presenting an alarm to the operator out of context as a starting point, the fusion center automatically correlates all related systems in response to an incident and presents the relevant SOPs. This gives the operator instant situational awareness of the event and leads them quickly through the right processes. And as many systems as possible from as many different departments as possible should be integrated for greater situational awareness. I don't have time to go through the use cases for each of these data sources contained here, but this is certainly not an exhaustive list and certainly not tailored to your organization. But the bottom line is that as many different devices, sensors, and data sources should be integrated into some form of unified security platform. The second component of integration is incident resolution, and this is the ability to act on the intelligence that is gathered. It is the sum of your SOPs combined with the ability to communicate effectively across the organization, from the officers in the field up to senior leadership. Mass notification systems enable security operations to instantly reach every affected person in real time, leveraging any communications channel with alerting and instructions. Visualization is another critical component of incident management. Operators, supervisors, and stakeholders need numerous dashboards and KPI outputs for a holistic view of the threat landscape and response capabilities. When all systems are integrated, every physical device and sensor should be plotted on a facility map using GPS or other geolocation data. All devices, sensors, floor plans, systems, and data sources should be plotted as layers to enable rapid acquisition of context and data in response to incidents. And then reporting, the only way to measure operational effectiveness is through automated reporting. Supervisors should be able to run reports and view dashboards on device system resource status and perform audits for after-action evaluation, training, and process improvements. And every security incident is an opportunity to conduct an after-action report to determine what SOPs need adjusting and what additional technologies are required to address new threats. All of these methods enable you to resolve incidents faster. Now, in a fully integrated fusion center, there's greater situational awareness, but it is still reactive and after the incident. As we move further into the fusion center model, the next evolution is to be fully aware. And the goal of an aware fusion center is to reduce the total number of alarms that have to be handled at all, and to be more proactive in identifying those threats sooner, which puts us to the left of the incident. The tactics for alarm reduction include the employment of artificial intelligence to reduce false alarms and identify patterns and trends. If we go back to the integrated phase where we have now increased the number of alarms, or potentially the number of alarms and data sources coming into the fusion center, we don't want to overwhelm those operators now with just more alarms. So that's where artificial intelligence is able to sift through the noise and present only the relevant alarms along with the relevant situational awareness for instant reaction. Organizations, when it comes to system health monitoring, organizations are blindsided when operators attempt to retrieve video regarding an incident, but instead discover a camera was offline or unusable. System health monitoring doesn't necessarily reduce alarms, but it certainly reduces the time spent by operators checking if hardware is functioning or not. System health monitoring applications check the status of all connected devices in real time and send alerts on down equipment, and automated trouble tickets can be created when a device fails. As we move through the aware phase into the proactive threat identification, the fusion center requires additional skill sets. Rather than just operators that respond to alarm, we are looking for analysts and hunters. There are also additional technologies that allow the fusion center to have a greater visibility into daily operations. So mobile incident reporting is a technology that allows employees to report incidents and threats, and these could be incidents that aren't necessarily of a security incident level. Maybe it's a homeless person in a parking garage or a broken glass, but they could be precursors to incidents. Risk monitoring is another area where fusion centers start supporting the overall business objectives with advanced threat detection. These systems proactively monitor, identify, analyze, and alert on threats against your people, your facilities, your brand. Risk monitoring scours thousands of open sources and social media data sources worldwide in real time to detect events that pose a threat, which are then presented as alerts in the fusion center. And then finally, for the incidents that cannot be resolved within 10 minutes, we have investigations, case management, and data fusion capabilities. So this is another area for hunters to detect insider threats, fraud, and conduct investigations. In addition to the integrated and the aware components, a fully collaborative fusion center is where security operations are integrated with the organization and are proactive in identifying a greater number of threats. They are data-driven, and they share the information and intelligence with more stakeholders, which then equips the organization to adapt to change more quickly. The stakeholders that contributed data in the integrated phase are now invited to have a seat in the fusion center, resulting in a more tightly integrated organization driven by real-time collaboration. And then the final component is virtualization. The ability to pick up your fusion center and manage it from any location instantly in response to an event, or pick up your people and distribute the load coming into the Fusion Center. This provides the ability to fail over to another regional security operations center if a wildfire cuts power to the facility, for example, or for an extended power outage, or in response to a surge in call volume. So hopefully you've seen the value in moving your security operations center to a Fusion Center. And if you'd like to partner with Convergint to take the next step, then we would engage in the roadmap process with you. This is a 5-step process that starts with the requirements gathering workshops. This is where we meet with first, second, and third level stakeholders to identify what processes are working now, what are the known gaps, what are the 1, 3, and 5-year plans. And then we produce an assessment and recommendations document. This is where we tell you, benchmarked against your peers, this is where you rank. These are the processes that are going well. These are the people you need to supplement. These are the additional technologies that need to be added. And these are how all of those components will work together. We then work with you to align and prioritize those assessments and recommendations so that you can say, yeah, Convergint, you got it right here. You missed it a little over here. This is where we would like, this is what we want deployed for years 1, 3, and 5. And then as a result of that alignment and priority agreement, we then schedule demos with our partner manufacturers. And rather than subject you to the typical 1+ hour where they spend more time on the company and some other things that may not be relevant, we limit that demo to the use cases that were designed in the assessment and recommendations phase so that you see exactly how that solution is going to impact your operations. At the result of the demo phase, there's usually 1 or 2 vendors that bubble up that are very clearly the right solution. And so at that point, we move into the conceptual design and statement of work phase. And this is where you see the total cost of ownership for the next 3 to 5 years. So with that, I will open it up for questions. Please submit them in the Q&A tab on the right. Now, there is a 15-second delay between when I talk and when you hear me. So I'm going to wait an uncomfortably long time for you to submit those questions. So we have one question: how do Fusion centers help in the compliance space? So good question. One way that Fusion centers contribute to compliance is through their standard operating procedures. So the codification of SOPs that force the operator to walk through capturing the right information at the right time, providing that right information to the right people then. So it is ensuring that all the steps that have been determined by risk and legal and emergency and the compliance folks are being followed through every incident. I have another question. It seems an officer could be deployed much quicker, negating a threat before it occurs or reduces the amount of damage, either to physical or personal resources, correct? That is absolutely correct. Again, we want to be as proactive and preventative as possible. And by integrating more data sources into the Fusion Center, we're able to do that. We're able to spot trends sooner and correlate things that wouldn't necessarily trigger a security event on their own. I have another question here. How does one determine the priority of services? And I'm going to go back to the roadmap process. So during that process, in the assessments and recommendations phase, and then in the subsequent alignment and priorities, you, the customer, tell us what you need to see happen when it needs to happen. So the priority is really dependent on or determined by you, where you tell us these are the things you have to have for day one, whether that is situational awareness or alarm response capabilities or aggregation of different sensor feeds into a single platform. So all of that is determined by you. We just figure out how to execute it better. Are there any more questions? Okay, got another one. What is the process to find the correct products for the best result? The team that I work on, the digital transformations team, we have a very wide breadth of access to the solutions that are out on the market. We have analysts that identify what is cutting edge, what's out there. We have other analysts that determine what the best use cases are for those products, for those solutions, which may or may not be the way the manufacturers intended. So again, going back to the roadmap process during that assessments and recommendations phase, that's where we align your objectives with the solutions that are available out on the market. And I would say that Convergint is uniquely positioned to do that due to our size and our reach into the market. I'll wait a little longer for any additional questions. Well, it looks like there are none, so I will give you part of your morning back. I did just get a question. Can we get this presentation? Yes, if you will email me at scott.frigaard@convergint.com, I will be happy to send it to you. So thank you all for your time. Again, please call me if you have any questions or would like to discuss how Convergint can assist in your Fusion Center process. So thank you very much. Have a great day.